On June 23rd in Atlanta, Georgia, my next guest will set foot in the PFL cage for the second time. This time he headlines against Olivier Aubin-Mercier. Make sure you catch it. It'll be on ESPN. He joins me right now. He's the genius, Anthony Romero. Anthony, thank you for being here. I appreciate your time.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
I wanted to briefly touch on some of the people that you're working alongside in preparations for this bout. I know that you train with Nelson. I know that you train with Guthro. Like, what? How are those guys looking right now? I know they both have a fight in Unified and the UFC, respectively. How are your teammates looking right now?
Everyone's looking sharp. Everyone's on top of their game. We have two competing in the UFC next week, Jazz and Mike. We got the Unified card, BTC card, Bellator. So everyone's doing something, and it's everyone's biggest fight. So the intensity is definitely up and going in the gym. So.
And that's what I wanted to hit on with everyone having like big fights. Tisha in particular, he's got a title fight coming up. That's a really big deal. And is it a little bit different maybe now as opposed to maybe in times past when you may only have like one or two fighters getting ready? Now all of you are getting ready.
Yeah, no, it's really cool. Sometimes it's a little bit different if you're like getting ready yourself. Like for example, if I'm in camp or whatever and no one else is, it's everyone they're still training and stuff, but it's not as intense. It's I feel like the pressure is more on me and no one really feels what I'm feeling. So everyone's kind of like on the same boat and we're all just pushing each other because we know how we feel. We know the nerves, we know the pressure, we know whatever injuries, whatever anything that's happening, like we're all there for each other and yeah, it's just a great energy in the gym.
For somebody that's only 26 years old, you have a wealth of experience in a cage. And when I think back to everything that you've accomplished up to this point, you've competed against some of the best fighters in the world. You've competed on big stages. You not only competed on the Challenger Series, but even before that, you competed on Dana White's Contender Series. And when you think of like your entire career to date, all of that experience, what's some of like the biggest things that you would share to like a young up and coming fighter, like based off of like competing on a big stage before? Like, are there some of like big like lessons that you would share to like an amateur fighter who's maybe gonna compete like on a big stage for the first time?
I would say just from the very start, you need to be consistent, regardless of the promotion or the stakes at risk. Like it could be your first amateur fight, it could be your retirement fight, whatever it is. Be consistent in the gym, especially if like those who are trying to start a career in mixed martial arts. They don't understand that you need to be consistent, even if you're talented and you're wrecking people in the gym. You have to be consistent because eventually it's going to catch up to you. And I think that's what helped me my whole career. Even though I've had ups and downs, two promotions saying no, and I just keep going, and eventually something happens. Whether it's not the highest thing or the lowest thing, whatever, something's gonna happen, and it's meant to be. And I'm glad that I was consistent because for twice I could have been like, you know what, maybe this sport isn't for me. I won, and no one really cared, and whatever. And I'm glad I pushed because now this is like the biggest fight. I get the best guy in the division. I get to prove who I am, and yeah, I'm just really excited.
The path to get here for you, it's crazy because you've fought on Contender, you won on Contender, you fought on the Challenger Series, you won that fight too, and to like not have like a guarantee to like get your spot in the PFL, like that I'm still trying to like wrap my head around that because I was just like after the Caruso fight, I was like, this guy does not belong back in regional MMA. Like this guy is too freaking good, and I kind of want to like start our conversation there. The Challenger Series, you were going up against Caruso, who's a very gifted fighter. And I looked at the lines. You were a massive favorite going into this fight, and I was like, I don't know. I was like, it's not so much like about Romero winning the fight. That wouldn't surprise me, but like I just know how good Caruso is. That's a tough fight for him. and you completely dominated this fight. Like, what are some of your takeaways about the contest against Caruso? I thought it was probably your most impressive display I've seen out of you in your career so far.
Yeah, I've said it before. I find fights like that, they show my potential. They show like who I am as a fighter. And I think it happens a lot with people is like you get a fighter and you're supposed to win, and it's not as exciting because you're like, oh, do I need to give everything I got in this camp and stuff like that. And I find like you get these top guys like in the Challenger Series or the Contender Series, and you got to give everything you got, right? And I think that's what helped me a lot because I know like how dangerous he was. He fought at one championship, which is not a joke promotion. That's the top promotion in the world. He beat the former champion, so his wrestling was good and everything was great. He was a great fighter, and I'm glad that I was able to surpass that obstacle and yeah, it paid off, not immediately, but it did. So
And is that kind of a drag? Like you went out there, like at the time, like, I guess hindsight, 2020, but at the same time, like you go out there, you put on a dominant performance against a one FC guy, and to win the fight the way that you did it kind of suck at the same time? Because it's like you did all that and then like you didn't get like that end result that you wanted, which was like winning the Challenger Series. Did that kind of like dampen your spirits at all, or like what is that like to like win a huge fight like that but not get the outcome that you wanted? And it's happened twice for you, so I'm just kind of curious. Like, does that mess with your mind a little bit?
it was kind of weird because I'm running out of promotions. There's only so many top promotions for me to try to get into. I know there's probably Bellator and one championship. Other than that, I went through two of them and both said no. But PFL has been great. They've even though I wasn't picked that night, they wanted to keep me, whether it's a showcase bout or something like that. Their communication's great. They treat the fighters great. And I'm not even just saying that because I've signed with them. Like even through the Challenger Series, I didn't get picked. Like everyone was super respectful. Ray Sefo is a great guy. Like I was able to go up to him and actually meet him, and he was able to like see me as an actual person, not like one of his workers or something like that. Like we shook hands, we had a conversation. It was great, and I like that. Right? Some promoters are like the top. They're the boss, and you work for them and that kind of thing, right? So, but I knew something great was going to happen, and just all about being patient, and that's what happened. So.
You put something on Instagram and I commented on it. I was like, 100% you're going to go back. You'll be back in the PFL. And I had no idea it was going to happen. And then flash forward a few months and here we are. And I'm happy for you because this is something that you've been working for many years toward, and you're finally getting an ability to showcase your talent to the world. Like, it's one thing to compete on the Challenger Series, but now, like, you got an ESPN spot and it's a headliner against one of the most dangerous guys in the entire promotion. Uh, when you think about Olivier Aubin-Mercier and his body of work, like this is a guy that you've probably spent a good chunk of your life as a martial artist watching compete before. When your phone rang and they were like, "Hey, we want you to be in the PFL and we want you to fight this guy," like walk me through that conversation because that's probably kind of like a mind exploding kind of moment.
Um, I think the mind exploding moment was to say that I was part of the season because they asked me, they're like, "Do you want a spot in the season?" And I said yes. Like I didn't care. I didn't have an opponent yet. I said yes, because I know because you're in the season, you have to eventually fight anyone they give you, right? So you don't get to pick and choose. So I said yes, and they said, "Okay, we'll call you back with an opponent." So I was kind of waiting, and from there on, I was excited. I didn't really care what information they had for me after that. They gave me the name. I was like, great. You gave me the top guy to knock off. And then I beat this guy and now I'm the big dog. And everyone wants to try to beat me. So this is a great scenario for me because there's a lot to gain. And if I don't, then everyone's like, oh, we saw that coming. But I know myself inside that that's not going to happen. And I'm excited to show the world that you can go from like the very bottom, right? And like no, everyone says no and all that kind of stuff, and then all of a sudden things can change like that, right? So, just pushing through and being patient.
It's very interesting with you because like when I look at like your prior fights, and I spent a long time like doing research on you and like looking at those older bouts, there's a common denominator there. You in almost every single one of those, you were like a heavy betting favorite for every single one of these fights. I think like people who are in the know, degenerate gamblers and such, they know how good you are. And I think this fight's going to be different. I think you're going to go into this fight, and I think if you pay attention to a lot of the media, and if you dig deep into like the odds and who we think's going to win, I'm expecting you to actually come into this fight as a big underdog. And like for you, for the very first time, I would feel being like an underdog. Does it like feel different like as you get ready, or is that kind of something that you just laugh at and don't really pay too much attention to?
Yeah, I know. I've gone through all that. It doesn't really bother me. I expect it, right? He won last year. He has the popularity. People know him, and not a lot of people know me. That's why I believe this is a great opportunity because after this, then they will know me. So that's why, like right away, I said yes to whoever it was. It could have been Burgos. It could have been anyone else in that division. And that's why I'm so blessed and thankful to have this opportunity. And yeah.
OAM versus Burgos. What did you think when you watched that fight? I was surprised at a few things. I'll tell you what those are, but more importantly, I want to hear what you had to think about that matchup between those two.
Yeah, I expected it. The way that the PFL works, it's you have to win. That's what it is. Right? They always say win or go home, that kind of thing, right? So it's not win by knockout or win by submission. It's just win,
Mm-hmm.
right? So he can hold him against the fence for 15 minutes and become the champion, right? So it doesn't really matter how you win. So I kind of expected that because he is a smart fighter. And Burgos is kind of, I guess, in the mentality of more entertainment in that way from coming from the UFC and looking to try to get those finishes and stuff like that. So I wasn't too surprised about the result. And I wouldn't be surprised if he does it again. Because all he has to do is make the playoffs, right? He needs 3 points and he's good to go. So expecting the best guy out there. And just I keep saying it and I know it gets annoying, but I'm very excited for this opportunity.
For OAM, were you surprised at all at his willingness to stay in the pocket with Burgos? Because I've that mildly surprised me. He didn't really like. Yes, he did. He was heavily on the grappling. We all know that when we think of OAM, but also at the same time, there were moments in that fight where he stood in the pocket and traded with Shane for a little bit, and that mildly surprised me. And I was wondering if you picked up on that too.
Yeah, I saw it. I've noticed that his striking has come a long way. So he is a complete fighter. I know that for sure. I need to find the weaknesses that he has myself when I'm in there, because I can point them out by watching it, but it's always different when the guy is trying to punch you in the face, right? So I'm excited to find those openings, and yeah, just exciting fight. So.
Without asking you too many questions, because I want to see it when you fight. Well, I'm okay with it being a mystery. But overall, tell me, like, what is it about you that makes you a dangerous fight for him? Like, why? Like, you're confident. You're taking this fight. You're seizing the moment, and you've been waiting for a very long time, your entire career, for an opportunity like this, and you're chomping at this bit. Like, I'm sure after you hung up the phone, like you're excited. You're like, okay, we're ready to freaking go. Let's do this. What, like, why are you like so confident? Like, you know, you think you're going to win. Like, you know, you're going to win. You feel it in your bones every single day. There isn't a fighter alive that walks into the cage thinking like, I might get my ass whipped. Like, no one thinks like that. In your heart, you're going to win this fight in a couple of weeks. Like, what is it about your game that makes you a difficult matchup for him?
I believe it's the mentality that I bring into the fight. Like I'm more of a new breed kind of fighter. Like a lot of the guys he's been fighting are they've had a career, they've done this, they've done that. And I'm more of a complete fighter. Like I can grapple, I can strike, I can mix it in between, right? So that's kind of my mentality. Like I'm not too worried if he looks for takedowns. I'm not worried if he wants to strike, right? A lot of guys are like the last fight. As soon as he took him down, he has such a hard time getting him off his back, right? So I'm comfortable in those situations. I've been in there. I've had Mike Balot take my back. I've had Aaron Jeffrey take my back. I've had these monsters looking for submissions and all that kind of stuff, right? So I'm not shying away from those obstacles because they will be obstacles. It's not like I'm gonna go in there and run right through him. I'm not gonna lie. He's a champion. But I'm excited to face those scenarios and to show that I can compete with the best. So
Well, ladies and gentlemen, June 23rd is when the action goes down. And Anthony, not so much a final question, more of an opportunity. If there's anyone that you'd like to thank, or whether they be teammates or sponsors, anything like that, I'd like you to have that chance before I let you go.
yeah, a lot of support. Just thank my family. They're always supporting me through all these years from my competitions at 5 years old, competing in Taekwondo, and to now. Yeah, my family's a big support. My fiance, we're getting married in August, so thank you for her support. All my sponsors, you can check my social media. Big one of my big sponsors for this fight is Precision Roofing. They'll be on my shorts and on my shirt, so I got to give them a big shout out because they've helped me a lot through this camp. And other than that, thank you for this opportunity to talk. And I'm excited to show you guys that I can be the champion this year. So
Well, Anthony, I wish you the best of luck. And I'm ready for this show. I'm ready for you to put on a show.
thank you, it means a lot.